Hey everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome back to Cara Marcel. I'm so excited tonight to talk to an everyday hero. Delvin is a 10-year teacher who teaches at an alternative school, and he has a page called Turrible Schools. That's Turrible Schools. And I was reading some of his posts online, and I just felt like, oh, here's a kindred spirit, which doesn't always happen, especially when we're talking about the topic that we're talking about today, which is the disastrous effects of critical race theory or culturally responsive teaching, because a lot of people will say critical race theory isn't in the classrooms. Um, but it is. And I am so excited to talk to a kindred spirit on that. So welcome, Delvin.
I have to tell you, I'm a fan. It's a real pleasure to be on your show. Um,
Oh,
you know, yeah, I'm really excited about this. So thank you for the opportunity.
well, your videos are just first off, the editing quality is beyond. Seriously, that would take me like 3 months to do one, which I've been in that case where I'm like, I'm so sorry. Eventually it'll come out, but now I just go straight to it. So I want to talk about this subject. I love the way the first thing that you talked about was that they don't even talk about the fact that being uh, a good student or highly educated for African Americans, I'm just going to jump in, is considered acting white. I want to hear your story. How did you get started in education, and how did you get bold enough to say that? Because a lot of people wouldn't be.
I began in education because, as you mentioned earlier, I teach in an alternative program. And the reason why is because I used to be one of those kind of kids. And so I used to be in trouble a little bit. And I ended up getting kicked out and built a relationship with a teacher who I always saw when I was in the principal's office. And she she asked me one time, how about I set you up with this program where we go on trips all over the state, and everywhere we go, there are beautiful girls just waiting for you. Of course, sign me up, right? So, I mean, it was true because it was the college tours or whatnot, and when you go, they would have the cheerleaders and the drill team, or yeah, that was appealing, and I didn't know that it was really a program to try to get kids interested in education, and so that was my first realization that I had an obligation to society to pay for the ridiculous things that I did as a teenager to that point. And so I decided to pay it forward. So that's what got me into the teaching field specialty that I'm in. But as far as critical race theory, I think it was a natural evolution from the perspective that by default, being black, you're supposed to be a Democrat. And people who might think that what I'm saying is hubris, just look at the generic numbers federally, consistently. Black people vote Democrat in almost 90% and more blocks. And no other demographic of people does this. Not the Jews, not the Latinos, not the Samoans, not the Polynesians. Nobody does this. Eskimos, nobody does this except black people. And I find it really strange when you look at just about any news article nowadays, and I'm sure just like me, you know a bunch of people of color, as they say, to be politically correct, who you know good and well when they were in high school, they didn't learn, they didn't have any potential, they were burnouts, they were complete losers. But now they can get on social media and have a great opinion on just about anything. And so it just so happens that every time, reflexively, the group opinion, as you're probably aware, as they say on Black Twitter, there's a consensus of thought.
Right.
Whereas if somebody like us go to those spaces, then suddenly we're pariahs and
Right.
everybody would attack us. Everybody and their mama. And those are the fun parts, because that's when white people really show who they are. You know, it's stereotypical that the Republicans are the ones who are racist. And that's the narrative that you're fed when you're black, growing up black. That's part of the black experience. And so you don't think nothing of it. So what really started to happen for me was, I would say, professional developments. And when I would go to these district social studies meetings and hear the type of framing that other people would have. At first, I wouldn't say anything because it just sounded weird. You know, I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was almost like I was surrounded by white apologists.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't know exactly what it was at the time, but I almost felt like by default, if any quote racial issue would come up, I was the expert. And they would always look to me, and I was like, wow, that's strange. How is it now? I'm not sure what district in the United States you can be from as a public school teacher and generically not have a college degree. So technically, these are all educated people. You know, the demographic that the Democrats always say, we're not elitist, but you
Right.
know, educated voters, wink, wink.
Yes.
It's their
Yeah.
way of saying, if
We're better.
yeah, not only are we better, but we're smarter. We're
Right.
intellectually superior. And if you don't get on the same page as us, it's not only that you're intellectually inferior, you're morally corrupt.
Right. Well, and
And
also, I would say I would go as far for a lot of you're less than human. I've been in situations where the educated class has walked up and literally taken my bags at the Capitol and set them on the ground and put their feet on my chair just to let me know that I'm a nobody for them. Now, I will tell you in Utah where I am an educator, but I teach in the homeschool world and I don't have a degree. I have a passion, right? And I'm grateful honestly that I don't, because I'm afraid I would have been brainwashed in those days. So, I'm grateful to not be. Because when I
I
look at
can
the
tell you,
teacher, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, I actually believe that education would be best served by people who know how to educate, because we have people, again, even when I would go to these district social studies meetings, there were plenty of my peers who just didn't know about certain things that to me should be like that you just know. So it wasn't just, so for example, Christopher Columbus discovered America. Now, we all know that as historians, this dude thought that he was in India when he was really,
Right.
this is my husky over here talking. She don't never talk. And now, girl, if you don't quiet,
I could bring
so
my Chessie in. My Chessie talks too. So, I've got a Chesapeake Bay Retriever.
yeah,
But
I've decided to keep her down here and keep the pit bull upstairs because she's really wild. And so, hey, girl, you better stop that. So, yes, back on the task at hand. But so you know, we know that Christopher Columbus ended up in the Caribbean, but it wasn't the point about him discovering America, it was about bringing Western ideas to this continent.
Right. Right.
That's really what it was about. And so when we celebrate Columbus Day, it's really celebrating the genesis of the ideas of where we came from.
Right.
I'm
Of
really
Western
doing bad over
civilization.
here.
That's totally fine.
Golly.
Mellow Cat is laughing and saying your dog is putting their 2 cents in. So, which I think it's great. It's funny. Um, can I ask you, can I go back? I'm taking it, you're from the South. Um, did you grow up having racial ideas, racial opinions, and did they change, or have you just never cared?
Oh wow, that's loaded.
I
Again,
know.
there's certain. Yeah, I grew up in Louisville, and
Okay.
yeah, I'm really from Louisville because I say Louisville and not Louisville.
Right.
So there are people who. Here's the way I will address that. Generically, we didn't think about race because you knew biracial people. There were white people who lived in the neighborhood. Um, but what I will say is when I was in high school, so the school I started off in my freshman year, I got kicked out of and went to another high school. The first school that I was at was, you know what? This is so embarrassing to me.
It's
Now I'm
funny.
telling you, go ahead.
No, I'm just laughing. I'm just laughing. I want to hear your story. So it's funny.
I want to tell my
Mhm.
story. So anyway, but when I went to the other high school, we had literal skinheads in that high school. And so I'm talking about they would have 88 on their jackets. And so
I
for
don't know what that
people who
means.
don't know what 88 is, H is the eighth letter of the alphabet. So it's for Hail Hitler.
Oh,
And so, yeah, we grew up.
okay.
Now, again, I grew up in the hood. So, me and my dudes used to bump with them. We used to bump with them. Yeah. So,
And then
so yeah.
translation, they got in fights. So, yeah, okay.
So
Uh,
here's the thing. What I will say is one of the best experiences I had from high school was this art class. And at this art class, the teacher said, because every table was full, but there was this one table where there was just two seats, one for me and one for the skinhead.
oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, of course you would think, and the first time I sit down, we just staring at each other, just waiting for something to pop off. And it turned out, as you can imagine, the more you talk to somebody, the more you know about them. For him, he really wasn't racist. He was just trying to fit in with the group that he was with. As you can imagine, in high school, you want to be somebody.
Was your school more were you the minority in your school, or what was this kid the minority? I mean, for
Oh
some
no,
people.
that's the thing. I went initially from a mostly black high school to a mostly white high school.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, and so it was more reflective of the regular population, I would say.
Okay. And the only reason, because I think that, we're similar. We don't care about this subject, but I think it's important for people to understand before we dig into critical race theory where our hearts are coming from, like what experiences we've had. I know for me, there was a young man in school who wouldn't drink out of the same water fountain as me. You may have heard this story before, but he wouldn't drink out of the same water fountain as me. And my friends were really upset. They were like, oh my gosh, you have to get him in trouble. And my thought was, no, I'm going to kill him with kindness. And by the end of the year, he wrote in my yearbook, I'm sorry, because people, we don't understand where people are coming from. One of the things that I think is insane is to pretend that white people have the they're the only people who can be capable of hating someone based on race.
I think that's one of the most ridiculous things. And this is the thing about leftism. Leftism only survives by using out of context history. If this is why you have dumb things like the 1619 Project, to sit here and say the founding of the US was in 1619. Uh what happened to 1776?
Right.
So there were all of these things that have to happen before we got to 1776, and all of those things made them who they were at that time.
Look, and besides that, what we don't talk about before 1776 is that while there were slaves, there were also Black slave owners. And that is not something that our kids are taught in school.
Let me tell you what's interesting about that. In the district where I work, there's a school called Carter G. Woodson. Now, for those who don't know, the reason why we have Black History Month is because of Carter G. Woodson, who initially started Black History Week. Now, one of the things that I like teaching from that surprises students every year is his book about Negro slave owners in the 1800s. And when they look at that, they're surprised. It's almost like, how could this happen? How could I not know about this?
Now, I have a question for you on that. What do you think would happen if kids learned that when they're learning about history?
I think it gives them a more complete picture of what's going on, because it's easy to think in a binary that's not natural. Okay, so generically, when you have these ideologues who come up with this concept of people of color and white people,
Right.
that's a ridiculous binary that don't even exist. You sit back and even think about the basic idea when they say diversity is our strength. You're really talking about non-white people.
Right.
And I'm telling you, here in Kentucky, you find all kinds of different white people. You find the kind who are sophisticated and they're sesquipedalians. For those who don't know, it means using a lot of big words. And you also have the people who are missing everything except 3 teeth. And I mean,
Just like
it's
everybody
all,
else.
yeah.
We're just human. When I was driving and I was listening to your podcast, that Nick Cannon guy, he ticked me off. So I was so frustrated when I heard what he said, because he said, "Oh, well, they didn't have all of the power that the melanated people had. They had to be savages up in the mountains." And I'm like, what group didn't have to be savages at some point?
It's
It's
funny.
But it's ugly. It's not even funny. It's the same thing with that woman, Ashley, what's her name? And I was gonna look for that video, but that the woman in the green jumpsuit that's way too tight and it just should be outlawed. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I'm just, why would you wear that? But she says that white people are demons.
Mm-hmm.
And she got paid serious bank. DEI people were getting paid so much when this garbage started. I don't know if they still are, but to sit in that classroom, I remember that. That was, I think, the first time when I was like, I want nothing to do with this. If you guys haven't seen it, I think it's Ashley St. Clair. Is that her name? I think I heard you say
I'm
that and
not
I
sure.
wanted to mark it. Okay. So she's this DEI trainer. She wears a tight green outfit, and she's probably 300 pounds in a tight green outfit. And she's writing and she says, "I'm not going to humor white tears. You guys are all racist, no matter whatever you do. Please, nobody take that out of context. Someone might, but I'm not." And I just thought, why would anyone pay to why would anyone pay to listen to this? I mean, there were people who were like setting up, "Oh, I want to be part of this DEI session. Who wants to go with me?" Those were my friends because I came from Seattle, and those were my friends. And I was just like, and every time one of them would say, "I'm going to this thing," I realized our friendship was coming to an end. And that was hard. So what I want to talk about is today I was at a session, I was at a thing, and they were talking about how important safety is. Safety, safety, safety for our kids. And every time I hear that, I get a little bit like, I get anxious because I understand how safety can be weaponized. And you made a video on that subject, and not safety being weaponized, but hello, doggy. um, Not safety being weaponized, but how they teach, how they bring critical race theory into trainings under the name of safety. So first, you have to actually believe that people are not. First, you have to believe that kids are not safe if they're not being taught this garbage. Sorry to be extremely opinionated, but it's been a long day, and I'm going to be extremely opinionated here.
The
So
first thing that go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, you.
The first thing that I will say is, personally, because I'm a Baptist, I'm a Christian, I come with a certain belief of how the world works. God teaches us that none of us are spared death, and none of us, God won't even guarantee your safety. God won't even guarantee that you will leave this earth with all your limbs. And
Yeah.
so, because of that, I think you have people who've gone so far away from God that they don't understand those basic concepts. And when you go away from understanding that God is my refuge,
Yeah.
then you start to put that innate need for God in a misplaced direction. And when you do that, it's easy to weaponize it and to, at the same time, become a victim of it.
Yeah. I remember when I just heard the term white privilege, and really what I saw was a lot of black privilege, because holy cow, are you allowed to say anything that you want to? But and that, to me, that seems like some privilege in itself, especially in a time when everybody is self-censoring. But I just thought, I already have red privilege, so I'm covered here. And the idea that it would be, and I don't mean red privilege as in I'm Native American. So, I mean, for me, it's the blood of Christ. So I've never, for me, everybody's my brother and sister unless they're not. So, and if they're not, it's because of their ideology, not because of my heart. But what happened to bring it into school? If you've been teaching for 10 years, has that always been a part of school for you? Or because it seems to me that this has really only been here for the last 5 years, um, out in the open. I could be wrong about that, though. Were you? Yeah.
So here's what I will say. So again, because of growing up Black, having certain narratives, teaching history, I never questioned those narratives. And so when the narratives I had always known to be true were just reinforced, I never had a reason, again, to not teach on the side that Columbus was bad.
Okay.
I almost didn't know better because, again, you have this appeal to authority. when you're a college student and you go to college, college is supposed to be the bastion of learning. It's higher learning. Okay. And so it really doesn't have to say it explicitly, but it really implies some level of deep thinking. And so what happened is they've made it emotional and not logical. I would argue that on some level, it's due to the feminization of colleges. I would even argue that because of the feminization of colleges and K through 12, this is why you have out of control behavior the way that it is. Again, if you understand contemporary gender roles as from God, then you know men and women, we're not equal, but we have our own roles. The man is supposed to protect. The man is supposed to go out and do the dirty, nasty things. I've been married for almost 20 years. Okay. I am a black belt. My wife is a black belt. I go to the range. She goes to the range. And when there's a bump in the night, guess who goes to answer it?
Right.
Yes.
Good for you.
Every time. Okay. I don't get paid extra for that. I mean, I don't. But that's my role. That's my God-given role. And so
I'll be honest, even my son, when he was like 6, it was his role. You get up.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you went to school, you were taught the narrative, the anti-American narrative in school.
Yes.
But you're not that person now. So what happened?
I think the first thing that started happening that really got me questioning things was the election of Donald Trump in 2016.
Okay.
Again, you grow up where legacy media is your friend. You're supposed to trust the legacy media. You are taught that the media is the watchdog on the government. So you have this situation where just personally, I didn't vote for Trump in 2016 because he seemed like an egotistical billionaire clown.
Okay.
I'm not saying any of that's changed, but the thing that I was able to change on him was when he actually got in and was able to have policy. Now, the thing is, with President Trump, again, with the Republicans, the narrative is always Republicans are racist. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so since the narrative is always Republicans are racist, it really jolted me when they started calling Donald Trump racist. Because Donald Trump had received, I believe, an award from the NAACP. And I know that he gave space to Jesse Jackson for free.
Right.
And so I know that Donald Trump was in rap songs. I know that, because if you had money back then, they used to say you was Trump tight. In fact, when I was in school, one of the it was a career type of deal that we had to do research on, and me and a buddy of mine did ours on Donald Trump, The Art of the Deal.
Okay.
And the teachers didn't go,
right.
But
they were told to hate him. They got a memo, and it was like overnight, hate this man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the first thing that really jolted me was the because I was watching it when the whole thing about Charlottesville,
Right.
and I saw the whole thing and didn't think nothing else about it. Okay. So I don't remember if it was the next day or a couple days after, but suddenly everybody was angry, calling him a racist, a Ku Klux Klan sympathizer. Look, here's proof. He said that they were fine people on both sides. And I'm like, but you gotta listen to the whole thing. That was just a small. Nah, I heard it. I heard it with my own ears. I heard it. And
Yeah.
so that was crazy. Um, the whole media narrative about Donald Trump being a Russian asset. What? Okay, so with what some would argue the best intelligence agency in the world is here in the United States. So you telling me that not only did our intelligence agencies fail to identify this very public Manchurian candidate, but you telling me they didn't do anything until he actually got installed? If that was the case, shouldn't we then blame Obama for letting it go? No, we can't do that. We talking about the guy who never had a scandal, Fast and Furious. But,
Yeah.
so that was the other thing, because you sit back and think about how under Obama, he gave Crimea away to Putin. Okay?
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
that and was like, dag, Obama, you going around droning everybody. You going around even killing Americans overseas with drones. But that was whispered. That was hushed.
Right.
Now, for me, because my mentality was, we America, we need to be aware of these global threats, I felt like it was justified. Okay? So just like the stuff that's going on right now, where with Maduro and Venezuela,
Right.
oh my gosh, it's so crazy, because just a few years ago, Biden put out a $25 million bounty on this dude.
Right. It wasn't even
Okay,
a few years ago. Well, yeah, I guess it was a year ago now. Yeah. So,
so
yeah.
basically, instead of us paying tax money to somebody else, we went ahead and did it ourselves. So I guess we saved 25 million, right?
Right.
With $38 trillion in debt. Isn't that what Doge was supposed to do? Cutting money? He's cutting money. What's the problem? Oh, that's right. He's Donald Trump. And so really, that's what started to get me to start looking at things in a different way, because I noticed just how rampant the lies were on the media, that they were just, it just got to the point where they wasn't even trying.
So you, as far as an educator, can you still hear me? Because I heard my
Yeah,
little.
yeah.
Okay. So as far as an educator, when you realize that the world is basically lying or hiding things or giving biased things, it started to make you look at education the same way. Like, what am I missing in education? That is so. One of the things in the whole safety thing that I'm concerned about is this digital media literacy. Do you know anything about it?
I do. And
So
yeah.
well, and where it comes from. So it basically starts from, at least this is my understanding of it, is that when Hillary Clinton did not win the election, her team kind of went away and said, this can never happen again. So let's create something in schools to make sure that our kids are being taught one thing as truth. So we have digital media literacy. We have culturally responsive teaching, which teaches that minorities need to be trained, need to be taught a certain way. I was talking to a teacher the other day who said, for example, you might get mad because a student doesn't look you in the eyes, but in their culture, they're taught not to look you in the eyes. Okay, that's fair. But at the same time, if you don't teach a child how to come to the table and how to relate in the civilization that they live in, And you can argue if you want to that that civilization is a white patriarchy civilization. I'm only going to say it's the civilization that we live in. If I lived in some, African country, then I would adapt and live that way and I would eat fufu, So but I don't live there. And I live in an extremely, well, I live in Utah, so it's not extremely diverse, but I can eat sushi, I can eat a hamburger. So, but to think that every single child must constantly look through a mirror as opposed to looking out a window is what I see as the culturally responsive viewpoint. It's constantly centering around them instead of bringing them into a place where they can, well, really a place where they can thrive. That's how I see it. How do you agree? Does that?
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000,000,000% because it talks about stupid words like the holistic child. What the you mean a holistic child? So what are we gonna do? Just slice them off at the knees and arms? I mean, the
Yeah.
they. This is the thing about the left; they're so adept at manipulating language.
Yes. That's very
So
true.
I mean, let's go ahead and be honest. I used to watch the Flintstones and look forward to having a gay old time. But now, if
Gosh.
you're having a gay old time, you got your butt cheeks out and chaps, and you twerking in front of 5-year-olds talking
Yeah,
about,
it's true. Yeah.
and they have the nerve enough to try to act like they William Wallace talking about this is freedom. No, this is oppression. It's gay oppression. Okay, because
It's
I know gay people who are like they making us look bad.
right.
From our perspective, the Al Sharptons and Jasmine Crockett's of the world is making us look bad.
Right. 100%. You know what that I think that one of the most uh, hard things that the gay people that I've talked to have said, or the gay or lesbian people that I've, you know, a lot of times they are that way, not because they're born that way, but because of abuse as a child. And when they see these kids, what they're put through, what's shoved in their faces, that also reminds them of the abuse they went through. So it's just this like Trojan horse of putting out, I don't want to go back into politics, but I will say this. Donald Trump recently called somebody retarded, and then they
They
made a
probably were.
commercial. Well, it was Tim Walz, so yes. but they put a bunch of special needs people out, and they made their commercial saying words hurt, and they use them as a Trojan horse. I mean, well, yeah, a Trojan horse. They put them out in front of everybody, and they said, "This is what this means." And they did the same thing with blacks and said, "This is what this means. They can't. They've been too traumatized to be able to think, and if they have bad behaviors, that's just their culture." Well, if it is the culture, then shame on the parents. Sorry, there's me going blunt, but if it is the culture, then shame on the parents, because the thing is that there's so many opportunities, and if you don't take them because you think they're white, that's on you. But if we make excuses and call that a progressive education, then that's on the schools. Um, some of the things that you were talking about, or in that video, you were saying that in safety, they bring it in as safety culture, but they have different names for things. What are some of the names that parents might not recognize, but that they should, in terms of recognizing CRT?
The most popular one is called SEL for social emotional learning. And I hate social emotional learning with a passion because it's basically a tool to
Oh,
feminize boys and to,
oh, I've
as
never
you
thought
talked
about
about
this.
earlier, to re-traumatize kids who are already traumatized.
Okay.
And there was a lesson that I had to do one time, and in this lesson, it was asking me to ask the kids about their personal relationships. I felt like Jeffrey Epstein. No, because he would have liked that. I felt, you know, I felt like the anti Jeffrey. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah, yeah,
I was just
I do.
so disgusted, and I looked at this stuff, and it's I'm trying to remember what it's called because it has this guy. Um, I think it's called Learning Connect, the program that we use, and it has this guy
Okay.
named Coach Rudy who runs the thing. And I don't know what Coach Rudy has taught or whatever, but I can guarantee he's making a pretty penny on psychologically making these boys soft and making these girls think that they're really equal. Again,
I feel like
I
equal is such a hard word because I do think we're equal. We're just different. Like I think, I mean, I respect gender roles, but I still think I'm equal. In fact, honestly, I'm like at this level by my husband and my son. That's the way they treat me. I am like venerated as the housewife and the mother, right? Um, and so I feel like that's almost, I mean, I'm more privileged, quite frankly. I am. so um so because I'm the princess and even my dogs and my cat are male. So but I have a hard time with the idea that we're not equal. But I do think that men are inherently and they're supposed to be stronger.
let me
I
say
really do
this.
think that's true.
My favorite president is Thomas Jefferson, and I love this quote from him that says, "There's nothing more unequal than the equal treatment of unequals." If men and women truly were equal, then we wouldn't have a problem with men and women's sports.
Okay. All right. From that viewpoint, I can see that.
Again, I think we're all equal under the eyes of the Lord, but we have
Right.
different roles. You have the yin and the yang.
Agreed.
We complement each other. That's why
Yes.
even if you're talking about hardware, you have male and female sockets.
Right.
They
Yes.
together form a union.
Well, and feminism before it was needed, well, and I now that I understand feminism, I feel differently. So when I say before it was needed, I'll say when women didn't need to be protected from there was a time when men stood up to the plate more because they were respected for doing so. Whereas now men are beaten down. And
Look at
I,
Daniel
I've
Penny.
never thought of you're right. That's perfect. I've never thought like with everything about social and emotional learning, when I think of it as we are creating a new red guard. That's what we're creating. And I live where Charlie Kirk was killed. Um and that red guard, especially with the transgender stuff, it's there's a correlation. And I think when you treat one certain group as if they can do no wrong, then there's no limits. Sort of like Epstein. When you treat a certain group like they can do no wrong, then they have zero limits. But I have never thought about SEL as, I mean, I have thought about it as making our kids fragile, right? And I hate that they constantly say, oh, social and emotional learning makes their kids more resilient. No, it doesn't. Like they're
I would
not
argue
resilient. Go ahead.
when they make these claims, they bring these goons in from central office who think they know my classroom and my students better than I do, despite the fact that them never seeing my students. So these goons are come in trying to teach this stuff to us, and boy, do I shut them down, sister! I shut them down, and I like for example, we have this program in our district where you have this black dude who represents the black boys, the black woman, you know who she represents. You have the brown dude. You know who he represents. No, I'm not talking about Middle Easterners, because when they say brown, they're being racist because they just mean the Mexicans, even though we know good and well that there's way more than Mexico, but that's how they think. You know that.
Right. Yeah.
So then you had this purple-haired, blue glasses person.
Person.
And
Got it. Yeah.
so when they came to talk to the staff about this program and how it's useful and all this, and I said, where's the empirical evidence that this is a successful program? Oh, was this dude stuttering? Okay. Where's
Yes.
the representation for the white kids? Oh, well, Oh, and here's the funny thing. I ended up getting an email after that they came, and it was basically like, do you want to be a mentor to the black boys? And I just happened to look at the other staff names on there, and I noticed in my building, the only ones who was on there was the black dudes. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I know my glasses are thick, but maybe I missed a name or two. So I decided to actually ask the white dudes around there, did you get this? No. Did you get this? No. So if you're building this specific program, recruiting people based on skin color, is that not the antithesis of the Civil Rights Act? So get this, sister. I then write a op-ed to the local paper, and they didn't print it. And I asked the editor, why didn't you print it? And the editor said, well, of course, you accuse the district of violating civil rights laws. That's not news.
Right. No, it's so in ethnic studies it talks about how the people are supposed to listen to minority voices as long as they have the right narrative. And if there's enough time, they can allow a different viewpoint. If there's enough time, right? So someone like you, someone like me, will never be allowed to fill in that narrative. They'll make sure that there is not enough time. There's only enough time for Ibram X. Kendi, right? There's only enough time for that. And that's literally ethnic studies, because sadly, it's all an agenda. Like, it's from ethnic studies to critical race theory or culturally responsive teaching, which never be fooled by that. It's still CRT. I don't know how people can be that dumb. To ethnic studies, and there's always one goal. Oh, and digital media literacy. The goal is always to push our children into being progressives, into being dependents of the state who do not think, they just act accordingly.
When you think
So,
about the basic idea that public schools have become more than just a center for education, it's almost as if public schools are an everything factory. Public schools,
oh,
people don't
dang.
like to think about it, but public schools is government. So the more services the school offers, the more that you are psychologically softening them up to accept government help on a regular basis.
Yes. Yes. Well, I mean, it's a dependency factory. And one of the things that I've seen, I mean, I'm sure you said you're Baptist. Do you know about like Black liberation theology?
Oh gosh, you talking
Right.
about like your dude Jamal with his naked wife?
Well, I'm talking about way before then, and it would be another discussion, which actually, if you're open to it, I would love to like talk to you once a month, because I just think that we have connection. But and I want to talk about all of these subjects. Like, I really want to break down what critical race theory is for a full hour and explain that in detail. And so Black theology happened. So the communists came and they looked for what they would call the ghetto classes. How could they change people? How could they destroy Western civilization? And so they went to the Black churches, and the Black churches said, "Oh no, we've got our gospel." But then they changed the gospel to the social justice gospel. And that became a I'm trying to think of the guy's name. It's escaping me right now. But that became this, um the focus was, we are oppressed, and because we are oppressed, we are righteous. And when you start listening to the stuff that they were talking about in the 1930s, and you start looking at CRT and DEI today, it is the same thing. So you've got people who that has been instilled in them for, you know, 70 years. And so once they've got that stuck in their head, um, well, I guess almost 100 years, huh? But once they have that stuck in their head, it's impossible. Now, I believe that African Americans have been the guinea pigs, and they figured out what they would do, how they could build this kind of incessant bitterness. That's all. And not with every person, but they worked on it. People will say things like MK Ultra and all that stuff. I honestly don't follow that stuff, but I do think that you have to do certain work to make people not believe that they can do for themselves, to make like a huge part of the community move as one kind of conglomerate, and constantly say, we must vote the same way, we must think the same way, we must crush everybody who doesn't think like us. And to do that in a place like America, where all you have to do is walk across the street and go, nah, because that seems to be the case. All you have to do is walk across the street and say, I'm going to choose another path. And people don't do that out of shame or whatever else. But now that it's worked so well, now we're seeing the same thing for other demographics. And especially, I'd say right now, the gay, lesbian, LGBTQ, the same exact pattern. You are a victim, thus you are special. And
That's
because you
because
are special, yeah,
it's all rooted in Marxism. They're
right,
all offshoots of Marx. Whereas
yes.
Marx said my binary is going to be the rich versus the poor. My binary is going to be the managerial class versus the working class. And so all these people do is set up these weird dynamics. And this is why the Democrat coalition in the form that it is now, as it's appealing to the far left, isn't going to maintain. You have somebody like Zoran Mamdani, which earlier when you were talking, I forgot what word you said, when he started eating his gruel just like this, like, and then you have people coming out defending them, talking about, come on, you eat hot dogs and hamburgers with your hands. You fool, they're dry. I'm not taking my hand, slopping it in something wet, slopping it in my wet mouth, then slopping it.
So I was the fufu. That's what you eat in Africa. Like, they have a thing that's called, it's glue. It's like a gluey rice thing, and I've had it. There are people who invite me to their events, and so I've but yeah, that's not my culture. If it was, or if I was there, I would adopt that. And I think
Well,
this idea that Western culture is not something to adopt. Are you serious? We've got 8 million people here because they lived in a hellhole. And I'm talking about the Venezuelans, right?
yeah.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I was watching a video of a person walking down the street and saying, I'm looking for a dog or a cat or a fox. I'm hungry. I'm so hungry. And in America, we we take everything for granted. And that's the thing, is like, how, and my brain just can't get around it. How do you live in a place where there's so much opportunity? Because I mean, I wasn't exactly like you. I wasn't, bumping people. But I did grow up and age out of the foster system. And, I could have been a permanent victim. It would have been so easy. In fact, I've had leftists say, if only you were on our side, you could be such a voice for our movement. And I'm like, and that would be a cold day in a hot place. So, but because I just don't know why people would choose misery. But I think that if misery is branded as enlightenment, and I really think that that's what happens with social and emotional learning. I really haven't went into this place of they're feminizing our men, but out of all of society, I think that the feminization of men is a bad deal. This like the devouring mother is what it's called. And I think that I've never looked at SEL as that. So that's new for me.
So let me say like this, for example. It's totally stupid. And I think that before 15 minutes ago, we all understood that men cry. I remember watching Michael Jordan win a championship. He was crying. Scottie Pippen was crying. Dennis Rodman. Yeah, everybody over here crying. Okay? And wasn't nobody like, look at them, they soft. They feminine. No, because we know that men cry. And nobody ever questioned that. The problem is, oh, my toe hurts. When? Oh, I don't like the politician in office. When? That's, it's that kind of stuff now, And
Yeah.
so when they're trying to say it's okay to cry, they're trying to feminize the boys by manipulating. Like I said, the left is good at manipulating language. And through
Yes.
manipulating language, they can manipulate emotions. This is why you can have, like the studies that show how, in a lot of cases, the more DEI you do, the more racist you make white people. And
Yeah.
so,
What do you think
even
Mom Johnny's conversation about, well, this is going to be really hard, or Mom Johnny's little secretary person who said, we're going to be taking away property and that's going to be real hard for the white people. What do you think that that's going to do to the people who hear that?
I think that if you're on the left, it does nothing because they revel in white guilt, self-flagellation. Don't know if you're aware of a picture that's out there where I don't know who she is, but it's some white woman who kissed Jasmine Crockett's foot. You might remember right on the heels of the George Floyd thing, you had all these people, these white people dressed in kente cloth, kneeling and stuff. It's like, come on, Ubura Gandhi, stop it.
Yes, I think that they prostrate themselves and they say, please, please, not me, not me, not me. But then when they've done enough to themselves, because there's a point where there gets to be enough. I'm so sorry, but the majority of the awfuls, the affluent white liberal women, emphasis on affluent, okay? They will go out and say, oh, these poor black people, let me help them, right? But if you come up to their, $800,000 home and say, well, actually, you could help me by trading houses with me, they're going to go, oh, I'm so sorry, but I'm not even going to answer the door. They're going to say, Maria, close the door, right? Because that's who they are. And they pretend that there's something different. They'll say, oh, I'm going to this shelter and I'm helping these people. Sure, but then you're going to get in your Bentley and go home to your neighborhood. And, you don't really, because if you really wanted to change things, well, I always thought this when it was George Floyd and everybody put their stupid black squares up in their Facebook. I was like, or you're at home, kids are at home, open up your Zoom and teach kids math better than the computer will. You know, tell them stories, Do something to humanly connect instead of just virtue signal. Mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa, especially now that I know that there's so many NGOs. There's so many NGOs that are mea culpa, mea culpa, while they're saying and gimme, gimme, gimme at the same time, which is gross. It's just, and that's what I found a lot of in DEI is that people, your dog got quiet. That people, they don't really believe it. I don't think they really
Yes.
believe it. Number one, I think they're the you can't not be a supremacist if you constantly think that every person based on the color of their skin is less than you.
Yeah, I mean, if the whole idea is to judge people by the content of their character, the left is doing the furthest thing from that. And when you sit back and think about stuff like black graduations, it's
Yeah.
like, when was the last time you heard Indians talking about we want an Indian graduation? When was the last time you heard Latinos asking for Latino History Month? These people don't care about this. This is all led by white liberals. And this is another one of those quote turning points for me is, so my wife is Latina. Okay, she's an immigrant. And so when these dummies was going around talking about Latinx, I thought, you people are stupid. The Spanish language is a gendered language. So if you say Latin X, so how are you going to convince people to change their entire language and say, I'd like to go to TalkX Bell and get 3 TalkX or TalkXs? Oh, we can't say X, or is it Talk Twitters? I don't know. It just gets stupid, you know?
Agreed.
And, uh,
It's control. That's all it comes
yes,
down to. It's just how many stupid things can I make you do? How many, again, how much prostrating can I make you do? How much, like, lay down on the ground and do exactly what I say? What I tell my students is it's the emperor's new clothes. That's the very first thing I teach my kids every single year. The very first thing I bring in, like, a bathrobe and a crown, and I have them act it out, and then I say, so listen to me here, okay? Because the new clothes are ideas, and the people, you got to think about the people who are looking in the windows and they're going, oh, how uh, I don't see any clothes here. And then they look at the person next to them, and they don't want the person next to them to think they're stupid, or, so they start making up stories. And then another person goes, yeah, that's true. And so many people will do stupid things. And I don't know how we got there, because I, I, I don't know. You probably saw my post the other day where I said I'm a normie. Am I still there?
yeah,
Okay. Okay. So the other day I made that post where I said I'm a normie, and people were like, "No, you're not a normie." But I'm like, I always thought my viewpoint was pretty normal. When people say stupid crap, you should be able to say, "Hey, that's stupid crap, and I'm not going to do it." And that's it. That's you should just be able to do that. And so many people won't. So many people are like, "That's contentious. I wouldn't possibly want to do that." So I lost my ear thing. Well, it's been an hour, so we should probably wrap up. But this has been fun. I would love to chat with you again if you ever want to. So yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. Sorry, you guys. I know my little earbud thingy fell out. I'm once again getting new to this. Let me run through and see. Somebody asked if the editor was a white liberal.
I
You
don't
don't know?
know. No, I
Yeah,
don't.
you never know.
I'll find out and get back with you. How about that?
Great. Another person said, if you never learn how to deal with adversity, how do you develop true resilience? Exactly. They're not developing true resilience. It's a mockery. So much of what we live in right now is a mockery. It's a lie. It's the opposite. Black lives matter, but not if you're a black person with a different voice, right? Black Lives Matter, but not if you're an infant or an unborn child. Um, Somebody said they're leaning into a stereotype versus being, um, we got tons of comments today. Biden doesn't remember what he did last week. Well, I think that's kind of fake. I mean, I think he remembers much things, but it's a very good way to cover yourself and not get held accountable to pretend you're a moron. Um, Somebody says yes, the feminization is a problem. It is. What I think about, and not everybody agrees with me, but when I think it's the oldest problem in the book because when the serpent went to Eve, said, "Hey, Eve, he does not have everything. You got a lot, but you could have a little bit more. You could be just
Mm.
like God." And people went for that, or she went for that, and you're welcome. So, anyways, thank you so much for chatting with me. You guys, thanks so
Thanks
much
for
for
having
for
me.
joining us. Yes. And thanks, little dog, for joining in with us. I'll talk to you again. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.